All right, a little coffee break time for you. It's going to be a little short recording, drinking a little coffee. This is actually a cold brew lemonade. I don't know if you ever had that before, but it's actually a mix of cold brew and lemonade. Kind of obvious, I know. But what I wanted to talk about today was the rise of modern analytics in soccer. Yeah, football, the beautiful game. Review the little Champions League game from yesterday, and then talk just a little bit about how analytics has changed through the years and how it has made some sports better and some sports worse. First of all, the game yesterday, Real Madrid versus Manchester City. Manchester City, of course, Pep Guardiola, the coach, mastermind, but he makes the game boring at times by being really intelligent, using possession to hold the game, using possession to not really drive it forward so much, but to make sure he doesn't get scored upon. So what happens is, they started when he started it at Manchester City, they were a very offensive-minded team, but these last few years, they're very defensive-minded. So much so that when they played against Arsenal, his protege, Arteta, and him, they started 8 center backs in the game, and it ended a 0-0 draw. They played not to lose. Minimize risks, don't lose. Now, in Champions League, it's a little different since you have Real Madrid and, the kings of European football up against this Manchester City side, one of the, the two probably most valuable sides, most expensive sides in history, battling it out with $100 million players at every position. It's fantastic. And the good news was the tactics gave way to teams that wanted to play a free-flowing style of game. And so this made it to where we were able to have an open game, crazy game, and a game that didn't make sense from the modern analytics standpoint. So the way it works basically in the last 10, 15 years is data has really taken over the game. You have teams that play defensively with possession and position, and then also there's teams that attack differently, and you have different formations, etc. But mainly, people stop shooting from outside the box. That's the basic one. You stop scoring these just absolute screamers of goals, and instead, it's a lot of goals from inside the box trying to get something going. Well, this game had 3 goals for Manchester City, all outside the box. A goal off a deflection for Real Madrid from outside the box, and then just a screamer of a volley by Valverde from the top of the box. Of those 5 goals, none of them should have really gone in. They were just pieces of pure magic. In fact, the only good goal from a modern standpoint was Rodrigo's goal, which he was in through on the breakaway, got caught because it's hard to dribble the ball fast, and slowed up intentionally to give him space for the defender. So instead of keep pushing it forward, he actually slowed up, gave himself half a yard, put it through his legs, and scored to take the lead at that point. But one of the things that you can see is, let's see if we can share the screen, the expected goals. 6-goal thriller, right? You scroll down, though, to where centers of control. This is modern analytics. Who controlled the game where, more touches, etc. Expected goals. Now, here's the key. The expected goals timeline and total about who scores where. So final is 3-3. It was 2-1 at halftime. What was the expected goals? Real Madrid's expected goals was 0.65, meaning in normal circumstances, a normal team would have scored a little more than half of a goal in that scenario. Manchester City's 0.8. So a normal team under normal circumstances with those same shots, same thing going on, would have scored 8. So we should have expected a 0-0 draw, 1-0 win, 1-1 perhaps. And instead, because these Supermen just launched goals left and right, we were left with a marvelous 3-3 thriller. Headed into the second leg where, one team will win and go through and the other will go out, which is unfortunate because they're probably the 2 best teams in the Champions League. It just so happens they were matched up in the round of 8. So that's kind of how soccer has changed over the years in the analytical department. Is unfortunately you do get a lot of teams who play very defensively, and you don't take a lot of long shots because they're not analytically worth as much. Now, other leagues like the NBA, depending on the league, it's interesting which leagues are actually more aesthetically pleasing as you play them to their best ability. So, to the best mathematical way of their ability, I guess I should say. Baseball, the best version of the game is the least mathematical. Basketball, the best version of the game, is the most mathematical. In football, it's becoming more and more mathematical. Now, there's a lot of different styles and positions and things that get in the way with that, of course, as it's more matchup driven than a lot of other sports. But, for example, baseball, as analytics has changed through the years, the balls in play have gone way down. High velocity pitchers have gone up, which means there's more strikes, but also more home runs as people change launch angles and such like that. So the amount of home runs has gone up consistently through the years. Up until 1975, it was like percentage of home runs was like 1.8, and now it's 3.5. It's gone way up as the launch angle changed. Now strikeouts have gone up from 2005 to 2020 from 16 point, something to do with percentage, but home runs have gone up. Strikeouts have gone up. They've eliminated the shift, which, that's fine. I don't like it when they change the rules because people learn how to play things, but baseball is most fun with runners on base and runners in scoring position. And because of going for strikeouts and going for home runs, you see a lot less of that. So they've tweaked the rules to try to make it a little better, speed the game up, get more people on base, more balls in play. Contrast that with basketball, a little shot chart here. So if you've read the book Sprawl Ball, you'll see this, but here's a shot chart of how the game has changed. So in the 2000 season, here are all the hot spots. You have the top of the three-point line, the corners, and kind of the elbow three-pointer, and you have a lot of mid-range game. A lot of mid-range from the free throw line, from the elbows, and so on. 2022-23 season, it's all three-pointers and in the lane. And the basic premise of this is expected goals, what we saw in soccer. Expected points is what we see in basketball. A dunk is worth, I think, 1.8 expected points. You'll make it 90% of the time, or a 2-foot shot. So it's worth 1.8 points. A corner three, I think they shoot it at roughly 40%. Let's just say for argument's sake. So 3 times 0.4 is 1.2. So that shot is worth 1.2 points. If that guy's inside the 3-point line, 5 feet inside, let's say, little, 17 footer. Let's say he hits that 45% all the time. Well, that shot is only worth 0.9. Yes, 0.9 points. But honestly, they probably shoot it worse than that. So the long range 2 is the worst shot in basketball, whereas the corner 3 is the most valuable shot in basketball, that and the dunk. That's where the Warriors, but the Rockets really expanded upon that, where threes, frees, and layups. That's it. I want 3-pointers, free throws, layups, dunks. That's it. And then and what this does, then it also spaces the floor. So as where before you would have people all over the floor in certain positions, now you can ISO and people can camp on the different spots near the 3-point line. You have it in the lane and you have shooters all around. As much as I dislike isolation basketball, if you play it right, you don't have to ISO. You actually get really good ball movement like what Denver does, what the Mavericks have done a lot better since the trade deadline. And so that's how you can actually play really nice, aesthetically pleasing basketball using analytics. And with soccer, you don't get as many of those glorious shots from outside the box because those are like mid-range jumpers. You're not going to score from there most of the time. But man, when you do, it's like your imagination goes wild. And when you hit one, like Foden hit one, like Valverde hit one yesterday, as one who's played for 30 years now, you only get like 4 or 5 of those in your life, where in a game, not just practice, you hit them every once in a while in practice, but in a game, you maybe get 4 or 5 just pure strikes that are going in. And it's really incredible when you do. So hope you enjoyed our little coffee break. Get you a cold brew lemonade. This one's from Billy Joe in Grand Prairie. We'll see you later.